rolling.
Alright guys, welcome to Fly Fishing 101. Today we're going to learn the basic cast and the roll cast in fly fishing. One thing that's really important though to remember before we get into the actual teaching of the cast is the basic fundamental philosophy of the fly fishing cast. It's different than any other cast because in regular fishing it's the weight of the lure that's taking the line off your reel and dragging it out onto the water when you cast it. In fly fishing, it's the weight of the line, and this changes how we cast. To cast, what we always need is momentum. The momentum of the line carrying the lure out there. So, what we're going to learn first is the basic cast. And I'm going to show you the basic movement without the line, and then I'll show you a cast. So the basic movement is this. Start with your line out in front of you. That's the basic movement. Now I'll just get some line off the reel and I'll show you an actual cast. Might do a few crappy casts here to get a good amount of line off and show you a nice one. I don't know if the camera will really capture it well, but for those of you here in person, you'll actually see a very pretty cast because, let's face it, I never make mistakes. I'm just kidding, I made a mistake in the last video. So, this is the basic cast. Goes forward and backwards, and it gains momentum for your fly. So, how do we do that, you ask? That's a great question, I say. So, what we're trying to generate in the air to gain our momentum is a loop. The line forms a loop in the air. Both a forward and a backwards loop, depending on where your rod's going. So, what we do is we start out with our line straight in front of us. We lift our rod tip off the water, lifting as much line off the water as we can before it starts bending back on us. And then we bring the rod back firmly, not a huge reef on it, but you're bringing it back firmly to get that line flying through the air and going out behind you. You stop your rod, again firmly, at a 2 o'clock position. When you stop the line, the line will curl out behind you in a long loop. Once the line straightens, you will feel the weight of the line on your rod. That's when you bring your rod forward. Not before, not after. If you wait, the line will hit the water. If you do it before, your loop won't fully form and it will all kind of just fall in front of you. So it's key to wait until you feel the weight of the line on your rod. So you bring it forward and you just keep repeating that. You bring it forward, line curls out in front of you, and you stop your rod and then bring it back when you feel the weight. If you want to let the line drop, you let it curl out in front of you, and then instead of bringing it out, you just drop your rod tip and the line will gently drop to the water. So to repeat, the 3 steps of this are lifting the line off the water, bringing your rod back to the 2 o'clock position, waiting for the weight of the line, and bringing your rod forward. And so, now I want you guys to go and practice that, and once you've done 5 successful casts with a good loop in the air, then we can move on to the roll cast. Alright, now that we've done our successful basic cast, we move on to the roll cast. What the roll cast does, and it's essential for a fly fisherman, because if you've noticed, in the basic cast we have to have room both forwards and back. So forwards, back, we need room. If you don't have that back room, let's say you have a tree there, you do your basic cast, you're going to get hung up in the tree. And that's kind of terrible. It's not a lot of fun. You have to climb the tree to get your hook, or if you're really rich, you just break off your line and you put a new hook on, but not all of us have money. So, we use a roll cast. A roll cast is designed to create momentum, whereas the basic cast generates momentum by the pendulum effect. The roll cast creates it instantaneously. And so what that does is it allows us to cast without doing a back cast. So this is nice when we're in a tight spot. So the basic movement of the back roll cast, the roll cast, is you bring your line back, you ride back until your line forms a D in the water, and then hard forward, stopping at a 2, 3 o'clock position. I'll show you that with some line out there. I'll just do some basic casting, get the line out, and then I'll show you a nice little roll cast. And then I'll go over the 3 steps again just so it's clear. Okay, we got our line out, and that's a roll cast. The line just kind of rolls out. It's instantaneous momentum. You may not see me stopping my rod at the 3 o'clock, but I am. I'm just lowering it really quickly. So I'll try to do it where it exaggerates it really. It's a lot better. There you go. So, what are the 3 steps of that? I've kind of already said that you need to bring it back, stop it at the 3 o'clock, but the most important part is lifting the line off the water. So that's step 1. Bringing your rod back to the 2 o'clock, that's step 2. And then in step 2, there's a detail that's very important. You need to get your line to form a D in the air. In between you as the bottom and your rod tip as the top, your line has to form a D. If your line doesn't form that D, it doesn't matter where your rod is, 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock, you need to get it back far enough so it's forming a D in the air. And then step 3 is you bring it forward hard to a 10 o'clock position, and the line will just kind of roll out in front of you. It's not very good for long casts, but it's good for when you're in a tight spot. Alright, so if you guys could go practice that, and once you've got it successfully, we'll all have a nice fun day of fishing.